right, we are back on the Ringer NFL show. Let's go through the AFC bracket here. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, we'll get to them later, don't worry. Kansas City Chiefs get the bye. I had the wrong read on that game. The first game in the AFC will be the Los Angeles Chargers going to Houston to take on the Texans. That is the first game of Wild Card Weekend, 4:30 Eastern on Saturday. They are 2.5-point favorites, road favorites against Houston. Next, we have the Steelers at the Ravens, facing off for the third time this season in prime time, Saturday night in Baltimore. The Ravens are 9.5-point favorites in that game. We just saw these two teams play a few weeks ago. And then Sunday, early game, Bo Nix, the Broncos, Sean Payton, they get it done against the Chiefs. So now they earn themselves a date at Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Bills are 8.5-point favorites. So two big time spreads here. Ravens 9.5, Bills 8.5 in the AFC. Those are the two biggest spreads of Wild Card Weekend. All right, let's start with the first game here. Chargers at Texans. I think the Chargers are going to be a popular pick. 2.5-point favorites. Diante, are these two teams relatively evenly matched? Are you buying what you're seeing with the Chargers? Do you just want to sell the Texans offense? Where do you come down on this matchup?
I think if you're evaluating rosters, you'd say they're evenly matched. The issue is that the trend lines are going in the wrong direction, at least in Houston's case offensively. I don't know why you would pick the Texans offense to be able to win a playoff game against a defense as sound, as consistent on a down to down.
It just sounded basis. So mean.
I just don't I don't trust them. And that's with all the belief I have in CJ Stroud, unless they were just able to hit explosive play after explosive play over the top to Nico Collins, which they don't even have the time in the pocket to do at this stage in the season. I just don't know how they don't end up trailing by 9 or 10 points. And then Jim Harbaugh pulls out the old he and Greg Roman special of 22 personnel running power, ISO and duo, and just running the clock out so they don't have enough possessions to come back. And I think if you look at the way that Justin Herbert's been playing over the last 3 weeks, as his volume of passes have gone up in these games, you've seen them be more and more productive offensively. I think that they're starting to strike something that really works for this offense, and they've been able to put up points, albeit up against some struggling defenses the last 2 weeks with the Patriots and Raiders. But I think if you can look at that Broncos game, which is another pretty evenly matched team with them, they were able to figure something out in the passing game that worked for them, and I trust them to do the same thing against the Texans, who also like to play aggressively on the back end.
I don't want to get caught. I don't want to get clipped saying that the Texans have no chance in this game, because I would never say that about a team going up against Greg Roman. I think their best avenue to winning is getting Greg Roman to participate in a run-pass competition where first down's a run, second down's a run, and then we're just going to leave it up to the quarterbacks on third down. That's been the case in all of the Chargers' losses and disappointing performances on offense this season. And it's been the case for Houston for basically 2 years going now. So I wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. But like Diante said, this is an offense in Houston that's been powered by explosive plays. We've talked about it all year. The success rate has been below Carolina and all the worst offenses in the NFL. The run game has been non-existent. The only thing they've had is CJ Stroud throwing downfield strikes to Nico Collins and the other receivers who are now hurt in this game. With only one receiver to key in on, I think it's going to be very easy for Jesse Minter to put together a plan, put a roof over this passing game, limit explosive plays, and force them to convert on first and second down, move the chains, and convert on third and medium. And I just don't think they have the pass protection or the play calling to do that. And with the way Justin Herbert's playing, I think you can somewhat mitigate the one advantage that Houston does have going for it. It's defense led by DeMeco Ryans. I think Justin Herbert is one of those quarterbacks that kind of puts defensive coordinators, the best defensive coordinators, out of the matchup. I think he takes them out of the matchup and is able to process things quickly enough where that pressure isn't going to bother him like it would other quarterbacks.
Maybe the biggest, to add on to that, maybe the biggest under the radar, I don't know if under the radar storyline is the right way to phrase it, but this Chargers offense, the last 3 weeks, have really played their best games of the season. I was looking up just the percentiles of their last 3 performances: 94th percentile, 93rd percentile, 89th percentile, their last 3 games. That's in terms of EPA per drive. So now the question is it, they faced the Raiders, they faced the Patriots. They did do it against the Broncos as well. Is it a small sample? Is it a blip on the radar? Have they figured something out, to Diante's point, that, hey, let's just play action, early downs, put the ball in Justin Herbert's hands. We don't have to go run, pass. We can open this thing up a little bit more with Ladd McConkey, with Quentin Johnson making a couple big catches today in their victory over the Radar. So I'm kind of looking at that, wondering, have they figured something out? Because you have Herbert, you have Jim Harbaugh, you have Jesse Minter, a defensive coordinator. Everyone likes, if I had to pick sort of the under the radar, weird surprise team that maybe is going to be playing on championship weekend. I mean, well, in the AFC, there's certainly no better option. So, all right, here, let's do this exercise right now. Of the teams that are ranked 4 or lower in both conferences, who has the best chance to be playing on championship weekend? I'll run through the teams for you. The Rams, the Vikings, the Eagles. I'm sorry, Rams, Vikings, Packers, Commanders. Those are your options in the NFC. And in the AFC, it is the Texans, Chargers, Steelers, and Broncos. If you had to pick one of those teams ranked 4 seed or lower that we're going to be seeing playing in championship weekend, who do you got?
You made it uninteresting by giving us the Vikings. That's the obvious one. We should limit this to the AFC.
Is it obvious? They're going to go to Detroit?
There are no weird things. There are no weird things happening in the AFC. Let's be honest. But it's going to be one of those 3 teams. It's going to be some combination of those 3 teams, because that means in your scenario,
I know
that a team is going to Arrowhead and beating Patrick Mahomes, and one of those teams is going to be the Texans, the Chargers, the Russell Wilson Steelers, or the Bo Nix Broncos. It's not happening.
That's why it's a fun exercise.
It probably is the Chargers now that I'm going through the options. So you're right, I guess.
Yeah. So there you go. I have my eyes on that Chargers offense a little. I'm more interested in them than I was a month ago, when I thought, all right, they're beating up on bad teams. They're doing it with their defense. This offense is boring. This offense is annoying. Who cares? Justin Herbert's playing well. They got no one they can throw the football to. Not interested. Now I'm a little more interested. There's a little more of a ceiling there than I previously thought. When has it ever burned anyone who does football analysis to, put a little stock into the Chargers? That always works out.
We need D'Amico Ryans to bait Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh throughout the week. Just be like, they'd be scared to have a run first script in this game. They would never go run pass every series.
Right. Haven't you seen our defensive tackles? We'll give up trap every play. I bet you won't run it.
Texans go into the playoffs with the worst offense of any team that made the playoffs. They are 25th in DVOA. They are 31st. They finished the season 31st in offensive success rate, ahead of the Cleveland Browns, the New York Giants, the Bears, the Colts, the Titans, the Raiders. All these teams were more likely to produce a positive play on any given snap than the Houston Texans. As we've said for roughly 3 months now on this show, that is unacceptable with CJ Stroud as your quarterback. So we'll see. Listen, playoffs are weird. Maybe they'll come out, they'll smoke the Chargers. That's possible too. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. It's not like they're massive favorites. They're going on the road like Diante. I'm with Diante. On paper, I don't think there's a lot really separating these 2 teams, but just in terms of trend lines, some of the coaching we've seen specifically on the offensive side of the ball with Houston, it's just going to be tough for me to get to a point by the end of the week where I'm like, yeah, I trust the Texans to win this game against Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert. I don't think I'm going to get there. All right, take a break. We come back. Now, these two is where you're really going to have to earn your money as podcasters. You're going to have to tell me why the Steelers can give the Ravens a game and why the Broncos can give the Bills a game when we come back. We are back on the Ringer NFL show. Steelers at Ravens, number 6 Steelers at number 3 Ravens. Steelers have just fallen apart. Now, this weekend again, this weekend was not an embarrassing performance, but they have lost 4 in a row, 3 blowouts against the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs. They keep it close against the Bengals. They still lose that game. They are 9.5-point underdogs. I mean, it wasn't long ago where we were saying, man, Lamar's having trouble against the Steelers. Steelers have Lamar's number, and now here they are, 9.5-point underdogs in Baltimore. Ruiz, I'm going to make you start this one. Give me the case. Let's say, somebody calls you up from Pittsburgh and say, Ruiz, we're paying you $3 million to come to Acrisure Stadium on Wednesday and give our fans a pep talk on why they can go to Baltimore and beat the Ravens. What are you telling those fine people of Western Pennsylvania?
I'm going to steal the line from Mike Tomlin and say, eventually they're going to burn the house down when it comes to winning time. Like this is what this team has done. It's burned me so many times as an analyst. Every time I'm like, no, this team's different. This is the team that's finally going to break through in the playoffs. They lose to the Titans when they're the favorites by whatever, 8. It was probably the same spread in 2019. I don't know the pathway to victory. I think it's just completing a bunch of explosive plays downfield, which have dried up in the Steelers passing game over the last couple of weeks. I know George Pickens was gone, but his return didn't exactly help them out in the deep passing game the last week. So I don't know what it is. I think it's the Ravens beating themselves. That's how they've lost games all season, especially to inferior opponents. We haven't seen them lose to an inferior opponent without committing a crap load of penalties or making mistakes, untimely drops or fumbles like that. And with the way the offense is ascending and with the way the defense has adjusted, I don't know how you can bank on that because they're not committing penalties like they were before. They're not busting coverages like they were before. And that was the way the Steelers beat them the first time they did it. And I just don't see the game being competitive, but it's got to be a ball control, Mike Tomlin style game. Like he likes to say, high floor football. We don't turn the ball over. We don't commit penalties, and we force the other team to kind of lose the game themselves. I think that's the only viable path, but it's kind of hard to plan around the other team kind of shooting itself in the foot.
Yeah. Diante, you got anything else for the fine people of Western Pennsylvania? Is that it? Just get weird, play Steelers football, look up in the fourth quarter, have everyone go, wait, how is this the score type game? Is there anything they can do from a schematic football perspective after having lost to the Ravens 34-17 just a few weeks ago?
You pull Cam Hayward and TJ Watt into Mike Tomlin's offense and you say, hey, we're going to win this game. It's going to be because of you two.
Yeah.
Beating up on their guards and tackles. And that's not outside of the realm of possibility.
Almost happened against Cincinnati, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So that's always there. Ruiz obviously kind of laid out the fact that Baltimore has just struggled in games like this where all they have to do is color within the lines, play simple football. I do think if we're going to be confident in Baltimore, you look over the last month and you see the fact that they've really been leaning on the run game and they've been able to pop explosives in the second halves of run game with their run game. That way, obviously, you're getting great play out of Lamar Jackson as well. And I think most importantly, their defensive success rate against the pass has been great.
Thanks to everyone for watching on FanDuel TV. For more, check us out on Spotify. Check us out at Ringer NFL on YouTube, and check us out wherever you get your podcasts.